Thank you for joining us today. We're coming from our London Assistance Centre, so I appreciate there may be some noise in the background as our members are still calling in. We're very pleased today to have Dr. Mark Parrish join us, who is here to give us the latest update on the coronavirus. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us today. Can you just give us a quick update on the current situation, please?
Yeah, sure. Let's go back a little bit. So end of December, this outbreak of what seemed to be a new respiratory infection was discovered in a group of people in Wuhan. When the Chinese government looked more closely into that, their public health authorities looked into it, they discovered a new virus was the cause for these chest infections. They isolated that virus and they were able to get the molecular structure from it, which shows that it is a new virus. It's a virus called a coronavirus. You and I have probably had coronavirus infections, Suzanne. They're the cause of many coughs and colds. Mm-hmm. Every so often these viruses change their molecular structure, they mutate, and that's what's happened with this one. Coronavirus actually was the cause of SARS back in 2002, and it is the cause of Middle East respiratory virus, which is still endemic in the Middle East. So this is another mutation. It appears to have come from a live food market in Wuhan. Mm-hmm. It's still not known quite how that's happened, but the virus appears to have moved from an animal to be able to live in humans. We have inhaled it, and it has given us a chest infection. That is a new form of chest infection, and that has spread rapidly in Wuhan and has subsequently spread elsewhere around the world because Wuhan is a significant transport hub. And so really everywhere that flights occur from Wuhan, we are seeing outbreaks of this new infection. It presents with the symptoms and signs of a cold. Mm-hmm. You get a bit of a fever, you get a cough, you don't feel particularly well, and then you get shortness of breath. About 25% of all cases are quite serious and require hospital admission. The majority of those are in males. About 2% of people with this condition die from it, so die from the chest infection, from a viral pneumonia. All those have died have been in China. They have all been old and infirm, and therefore their systems haven't been quite able so well to deal with this new disease. There is no particular treatment for it. We can't cure it. So if you do become sick, then you need hospital admission and you have supportive treatment with fluids and help with your breathing. We've seen about 60 deaths so far out of a total of about 100 deaths, after a total of about 4,500 cases. So about 2% go on to die. That's different to SARS, which had a death rate of about 10-11%, and Middle East respiratory virus, which is running at about 35%. Cases are popping up in different parts of the world. Governments have increased their surveillance measures. The Chinese have put in place some very impressive quarantining actions. They've shut down Wuhan and other cities in Hubei province to try to contain this disease. The challenge is that the disease spreads by droplets, so coughs and colds from you and I. We know it's already been transported around the world and into different parts of China. This has happened at the time of Chinese New Year, where they have about 3 billion people journeys around China with people going to see their families. It's likely that more of it is out there and just hasn't been detected yet. And we'll see more of it, I think, in the coming days as more cases are identified, and therefore there'll probably be more deaths as well.
Okay. So it sounds like we know quite a lot about the coronavirus. Is there other things that are still unknown?
Yes, quite a lot we don't know, and I think we will discover more of that in the next week or two. We don't know how it was transmitted from whatever animal it was transmitted. There's a lot of supposition that it was in bats, in snakes and other things. No one really knows that. Mm-hmm. We don't know how quickly it reproduces. We don't know when you're infective. The initial feeling was that you're only infectious when you have symptoms, when you have a bit of a cough and a fever. There's now some theory that maybe you might be infectious before that. That's quite important, because if you are infectious before you have symptoms, then the screening that's going on at airports and transport places around the world, which essentially check your temperature, is not going to be very useful. So we don't know any of those things. I'm sure we will get more information about that as the health authorities work on it.
Okay. What's your advice for either travellers and also businesses? What should they be doing to protect their people and their business?
We're putting all of the information that we know on our website, and I would recommend anybody to visit that website. I mean, I know I'm biased because I'm an international SOS medical director, but actually it is a very good website. It has a combination of information from the World Health Organization, the Chinese health authorities, our teams on the ground in China and in Asia, with a whole load of other bits of advice and frequently asked questions. So that's a good one-stop shop for a source of the truth. Our advice to individuals and to organizations is don't travel to Hubei province and anywhere else where there are quarantine restrictions in place. Travel to the rest of China can continue with, I think, a few things you should be aware of. The first of those is that the Chinese government may quarantine other cities. And if that's the case, and if you've traveled to those, so you may be caught in that quarantine. That's the first thing to be aware of. The second thing is don't travel if you're sick. It's never a good idea to travel if you're sick, and particularly now, don't travel if you're sick. And the third thing is if you do travel, then just take some standard hygiene precautions. Wash your hands regularly in soap. If you don't have soap and water, then use one of those alcoholic hand washing things. Keep away from any of these live food markets. The Chinese government has closed them all at the moment, so that's less of an issue, but they may reopen. Keep away from people who obviously are sick and unwell. Don't touch any animals, whether they're live or dead. Be aware if you have any particular symptoms that you think might be a cold or a cough and you're not sure what the cause is, then seek some medical advice and get some healthcare support on that. If you're a member of us, then give us a call. We're here to look after you 24 hours a day, and we will determine that. If not, then see a healthcare professional. That's for individuals. For organizations, I think for organizations it's a case of balancing a number of things, isn't it? And it's making sure that employees are fully informed about coronavirus, just as they should be fully informed about anything else when they are traveling, and that organizations have in place the systems and the processes and the plans to deal with outbreaks like coronavirus. It is likely that at some stage an employee of one of the organizations that we look after will have coronavirus. And so the case then is, do you have plans in place to communicate that? How do you manage it? How do you make sure that you deal with things in the workplace? Those are all the things that it would be a good idea for organizations to review and make sure they've got those in place before anything does happen.
Okay, great, thank you very much. And just wrapping up, is there anything else that you want to leave our viewers with today?
Well, I think the interesting thing about this disease is that it has been remarkably well contained. I mean, it's extraordinary that the Chinese public health authorities have quarantined essentially cities with 60 million people or more. That's amazing. And that has done a lot to restrict the movement of this disease. We'll see more cases. The concern we have is that we don't have another outbreak of one of those terrible epidemics which we've had in the past. We had Spanish flu back in 1918 or so, which killed 50 million or so people. That's what we're wanting to try to avoid. At the moment, it would appear that this is a new virus. It causes a range of respiratory conditions, some of which can be fatal, but those appear to be in the old and the infirm. Its spread seems to be moderate. It's reasonably well controlled. The World Health Organization has not declared a public health emergency of international concern. So at the moment, I think it's keep an eye on it and just make sure that you have all the facts at hand when you're trying to deal with it in your workplace or with your family members and your friends if they want some information.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was a really helpful update. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. If you would like to know how we can help your employees and also your business to stay in control, please do give us a call, get in contact, or go onto our website at internationalsos.com.